computer. Okay, gentlemen, Perashat Shemot. We are the year 5781, 2021. I think Perashat Shemot actually has a lot to tell us about the environment that we are living in. And I will explain what I mean by that. Let's start with the first book of the Chumash. The first book of the Chumash tells us about the beginning of the physical world. It tells us about the beginning of humanity, Adam Arishon and his children. And finally, it tells us about the beginning of the first family. That's how it ends. It ends with Bet Yaakov. Bet Yaakov, as I explained previously, is the family of Yaakov Avinu. He succeeded in establishing not just the first Jewish family, but the first family, period. So that's the book of Bereshit. In contrast, or rather in continuation, you have the book of Shemot, the second book of the Chumash. And the second book tells us how this Jewish family transformed into a Jewish nation. So you look at the transformation, they start as Bet Yaakov. Bet Yaakov is the family of Yaakov Avinu. But then it transforms into Bnei Israel, which is the nation of Israel. So it describes this transformation, or rather this development. And the history of the Jewish nation, as described in Shemot, is divided into two parts. Part one was becoming free from the bondage of Egypt, what we call Yesiat Mitzrayim. Yesiat Mitzrayim was a great national event because we were slaves. Avadim hayinu leFaro b'Mitzrayim. That was how we started our nationhood, but then we broke free from this bondage. Of course, Hashem broke us free from this bondage. So that's the first part of our national history. But you know, in the pagan world, there were Gentile nations, and sometimes one Gentile nation would oppress another Gentile nation. This is very common. And sometimes a particular nation would break free from the nation that was enslaving it. They would find freedom. But here's the thing. When Gentile nations found their freedom, I'm talking about in antiquity, they invariably used their freedom for wantonness, for lawlessness, for what I would call the law of the jungle. A great illustration of this, it's within a particular nation, within intranational and not between nations, is the French Revolution. In the French Revolution, you had the lower class that was truly oppressed by the upper class, by the aristocracy, primarily the royal families, and by the church, which was incredibly wealthy. And when the lower class attained power, they broke free from the bondage of servitude to the aristocracy and to the Christian church. What did they do? They acted horribly. They acted in a lawless way. They went on a campaign, a gruesome campaign of killing, of torture. I mean, it was one of the most, as a student of history, and as you know, I am a student of history, one of the most repugnant things that I had to go through was reading about the French Revolution. It's simply horrifying. I don't recommend to anyone to read about what actually took place in the French Revolution. It's simply, it is something that is difficult to read about and to understand. But that's the way it is. So when there is this freedom from bondage, they invariably use the freedom from bondage to oppress other people, either to oppress their oppressors or to become oppressors themselves of others. That's always the way it is. In the Western world, almost invariably, a person who attains freedom from oppression becomes himself an oppressor. So, one second. So therefore, we need to get to part 2 of Jewish history. If part 1 of Jewish history was freedom from the bondage of Egypt, part 2 of Jewish history is how we became a law-abiding society. We were not interested in doing unto others what the Egyptians did unto us. We were not interested in afflicting pain on the Egyptians, in starting war against Egypt. On the contrary, the Torah tells us that if there is a stranger in our midst, we should treat him with love, because we should remember what happened to us in Egypt. And because of this, we should treat the stranger in our midst with love. So we had none of that. The Torah says, do not despise an Egyptian, because yes, they oppressed you, but don't forget, you were also guests in the land of Egypt. Don't forget that. So how did this happen? How did we make that transformation from bondage to freedom, and then from freedom to a law-abiding society? And the answer is because as soon as we leave Egypt, we go to Har Sinai to receive the Torah, to receive the law. That's so important. That's why Am Yisrael is different than all the other nations. People say we're the chosen people. Ooh, how can you say you're the chosen people? Well, what does that even mean? What does it mean when we say we're the chosen people? What that means is we chose to be a law-abiding society. That's what it means to be a chosen people. We're not saying we're better or worse than than other nations. People can judge for themselves whether they want a society of wantonness and pillaging and rioting, or whether they want a society of law. They can choose for themselves. But when we say that we are a chosen people, it means we are the people that when we attained our freedom, we chose to be law-abiding. We chose to receive the Torah. That's all it means. So that's really fundamental to understanding Jewish history, because without law, what do you have? You have anarchy, right? So you need law. And what are you going to do with your freedom? Are you going to riot? Are you going to pillage? No. We want to be governed by the laws of God. So that's an introduction to the book of Shemot. I would like to read for you the first pasuk in the book of Shemot. And in order to make it easier for everybody, I'm going to share the screen. Give me a moment here. Okay. I believe that I'm not sharing a contract or any legal information. I believe, if I'm correct, that I'm actually sharing the text of Perashat Shemot, at least the beginning of the text of Perashat Shemot. So let me read the first pasuk. Here it goes. Okay. One moment. All right. Ve'ele Shemot bnei Israel haba'im Misraima et Yaakov ishvu beto ba'u. Okay, so now we begin the book by recalling the names of the children of Yaakov Avinu who are ba'im Misraima. Okay, look at the word haba'im Misraima in a moment. And it says, Et Yaakov, together with Yaakov Avinu, every man came down with his family. Okay, that's the pasuk. Ishu beto ba'u. So a couple of things about this pasuk. First of all, haba'im Misraima. What's wrong with that? From a grammatical perspective, there is a problem with this pasuk. Let's see who knows what the problem is. Haba'im Misraima.
Well, it's ele is like, it should have been in the past tense. By the way, sorry, my video is not working, but
that's quite all right. No problem. And you're correct. הפסוק שלו said, ואלה שמות בני ישראל אשר
Ba'u.
באו מצרימה, that came to Egypt. Don't forget, they came to Egypt in Perashat Vayigash, right? So Asher Ba'u Misraima, but it says they are coming to Egypt in the future tense. So there's a few explanations for this. One explanation that I recall is that the Jews never wanted to come to Egypt fully, right? So they're kind of in a state of coming towards Egypt, but they never really want to arrive to Egypt. My father did not like that explanation so much, and my father had a different explanation, and I actually think my father's explanation is on point. And here it is. We originally come to Egypt in Perashat Vayigash in the past tense. But the truth is, when we came to Egypt, it was kind of a honeymoon. We didn't really know what Egypt was. You know, we came as the family of the viceroy. We ourselves were royalty. So we had special privileges. And during this honeymoon period, things were really great. We had everything we needed. We wanted for nothing. So, you know, when you first come to Disney World seems fantastic. It's just incredible. Everybody is happy, everybody is smiling, and there are these fantasy creatures walking around you, but that's not real. That's not the real world. What happens? In this perashah, they finally begin to actually arrive into Egypt. Until now, they weren't in Egypt. They were in Disney World. But now there's going to be a situation where Yosef is no longer remembered or acknowledged. We'll discuss that later. The people, his relatives, the Jewish people, are no longer aristocracy. And therefore, they are just another group of strangers in the land of Egypt. And for the first time, the Jews are going to start arriving. One second. The Jews are finally going to start arriving to Egypt. You understand what Haba'im Misraima means? Now they're going to be arriving. Before, they were in Disney World. This week's parasha, Egypt, the real Egypt. Okay.
Rabbi, I feel that Derashah, first of all, it's incredible. Very appropriate to today's times, I must say.
You
I feel like,
you think?
I feel like I'm just arriving.
Yes, yes, yes. I agree. A lot of what we're going to say tonight is scarily appropriate to all of us, me, you, everybody. So we should just be aware. We should just be aware of the situation, right? And this happened throughout Jewish history. You know, I'm sure there was a point where the Jews in Germany thought Germany is the best place in the world, but then later on they really arrived into Germany. So let's continue. Let's continue though. Let's look at the order of the children. Look at the order of the children. It says Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zebulun, uBinyamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. Strange order. What is the order here of the names of the children? Does anybody know the order? What's the order here? Reuben, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zebulun, Binyamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher. What's the order here? The order here is not in the order of age. It's not in the order when they were born. Excuse me for one moment. The order here is first we bring the children of Leah. Then after we enumerate the children of Leah, then we enumerate the children of Rachel. After we enumerate the children of Rachel, we enumerate the children of the Shefachot, first Zilpah and then Bilhah. That's the order in which the children are enumerated, with one exception, Yosef. Yosef is not included in this list. What is the reason that Yosef is not included in this list? And the next pasuk
He
says,
was already in Mitzrayim.
He's already there.
Yosef,
correct. You are all correct. He was already there. So let's read the next pasuk. Vayhi kol nefesh Yosei yerech Yaakov shiv'im nafesh veYosef haya b'Misraim. So the totality of the descendants of Jacob were 70 souls. As far as Joseph, why was he not included in the list? VeYosef haya b'Misraim. He was already in Egypt. So you can't say these are the children that came with Yaakov to Misraim and have Yosef in that list, because Yosef did not come with Yaakov to Misraim. Yosef was in Misraim many years before that. Yosef haya b'Misraim. So let me explain this pasuk. There's something wrong grammatically with this pasuk. Vayhi. Here, I'm going to show it to you again. Vayhi kol nefesh Yosei yerech Yaakov shiv'im nafesh. There's something wrong. What the pasuk, who knows what's wrong with it? I'll tell you what it is. The pasuk says
Nefesh in the singular.
Ah,
Yeah.
correct. It should have said Vayihiyu kol nefashot or kol nafshot Yosei yerech Yaakov. What does it say? I'm sorry. Vayi kol nefesh Yosei yerech Yaakov shiv'im nefashot, right? The total sum of the nefesh of the Yosei yerech Yaakov were shiv'im nefashot. But it says shiv'im nafesh. So first of all, it says that there are 70 souls, right? Each individual has a nefesh, 70 souls, and it says nefesh. So I'm going to again give you the explanation that my father taught when I was very young. It's sort of a mystical explanation, but there's nothing wrong with that, because mysticism can be very beautiful, as it is in this case. And sometimes mysticism itself is a type of, in a sense, oftentimes is a type of peshat. So let me tell you what my father told me. He says that when Adam HaRishon was created, Adam HaRishon was created in a state of complete perfection. So much so that when not only he was physically perfect, he was created as an adult, as a fully functioning male, but he was spiritually and intellectually perfect, so that he was brought into this world in the state of prophecy. Now, the state of prophecy, the state of nevuah, is an anthropological development in man. Today, for example, we are very primitive. We may think that we're very modern, and in some ways we are, but in other ways, intellectually, we're very primitive. The proof is that we don't have any Nevi'im today, right? So we don't have any real Nevi'im. There's a rabbi in Israel, and I'm not kidding you. I'm literally for a year now, since the corona started, the Mashiach is here. He's in Israel. He's about to reveal himself. Many people know, this has been going on literally for a year. The Mashiach has already revealed himself. The Mashiach has already arrived. This is going on for a year. And he's closing his eyes as he's getting the prophetic message. Only thing, it's not a prophetic message from God. It's a prophetic message from something else. So he's technically not a Navi. So today we don't have Nevuah. So when Adam was created, the same way he was physically perfect, he was also spiritually and intellectually perfect. So he was a Navi, and he had the prophetic power, and he was able to see from one side of the universe to the other side of the universe through this prophetic power. What happened? After Adam HaRishon ate from the Es Hada'at Tov Vara, he ate from the forbidden fruit. The Hachamim teach us that his neshama split into 70 different types of individuals. And each one of these individuals became a different nation. Shivaim ummot ha'olam. But here's the thing. Although each one of the 70 nations came from Adam, there was terrible discord between these nations. And the discord was such that eventually these nations were going to go to war with each other because the different perspectives led to hatred of the other. He doesn't think like me. Therefore, I hate him. That's in the Gentile world. And that's why the wars have taken place as they have. So here we have Shivaim Nafesh, 70 souls, not a coincidence. Here the number 70 represents the nations of the world. And each one of Yaakov's children also had a different perspective. Each one of them was different. Yaakov himself recognizes this. He says, Gur Aryeh Yehuda. He doesn't say Gur Aryeh Binyamin. He says Binyamin Ze'ev Yitraf, right? Each one of the Shevatim is viewed differently because he is different. It is different. But the point of Nafesh comes to teach us that they were unified as one. Meaning, on the one hand, yes, it was 70, and each of them had a different perspective and a different outlook and a different intellectual horizon. But unlike among the nations of the world, where the different perspective and the different intellectual horizon led to hatred and discord, the chidush of Yaakov Avinu was that his 70 souls were unified, and there was brotherhood and love between them. So Yaakov Avinu, at the mystical level, he undid the harm caused by Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon, in eating the fruit, created a schism, a split among the nations. Yaakov, in undergoing what he underwent in his temimut, in his wholeness in worshiping Hashem as he did, he managed to create 70 different people with different perspectives who all loved each other and felt as one. Yaakov Avinu brought back the world, in a sense, or humanity, at least partially, to where it should have been had Adam Arishon not eaten from the fruit. So that's what I wanted to say about that. I have a lot more to say about that, but that's for those of you who come to my synagogue, Oel David and Shlomo in Manhattan Beach. I know some of you are in Arizona, so I don't expect to see you, but you're all welcome to come to the Bet Knesset, because I do have a lot to say about that. And believe me that on Shabbat morning, I will speak about that. Okay. Let's continue in the Perashat. Okay. I'm going to share the screen again. Here we go. Here we go. וימות יוסף וכל אחיו וכל הדור ההוא. And there came about the following situation. Yosef died, Yosef's brothers died, and that entire generation of Jews that came to Misraim, they were no more, right? It was a new generation. And what happened? Continuing in the pasuk, it says, Umne Israel paru vayishresu vayirbu vayasmu v'meod meod v'temale haaretz otam. The pasuk says that the Jewish people, meaning this new generation of Jews, paru. Paru means literally milashon peri. They were fruitful. And then it says, meaning there were many, biologically fruitful. Vayishresu, and there were many like the slithering worms. Vayirbu, and they became prominent. Vayasmu, they became powerful. Bim'od me'od, and this wasn't just a regular situation. They became great in quantity. It says me'od twice. You notice that? Bim'od me'od, twice. They became great in quantity, but special in quality. So this was very unusual, right? And finally, v'timale ha'aretz otam, and the land filled up with them. Wherever you went, there were Jews. Do you remember that the original generation that came into Egypt, where were they? They were in Eretz Goshen. This new generation, they were all over. If you go now any place in the world, you can go to the most remote jungle in Colombia, in Bolivia, and you'll find an Israeli falafel stand there. It's really pretty remarkable how the Am Yisrael has that ability to just go any place in the world and become successful and prominent in that place. It's incredible. It really is. It's a blessing from Hashem, of course. It's a special blessing that Hashem gave the Jewish people.
But in this parasha, it wasn't necessarily, the rabbis didn't look at it as a beracha. They looked at it in a negative light, I always understood.
I do agree with that. We're going to get there. But you agree with me that the Jews were blessed by God, but what they did with this blessing is something else. I didn't get that yet. But they were blessed. You agree with that, right? That is incredible fecundity, incredible power, incredible intellect. That's a blessing from God. What did they do with it? That is now going to be explored. So let me now touch upon that subject. In these two pesukim, we learn why they became slaves. Number one, Joseph died. Joseph was a brilliant political leader. And the Jews, we live with the Goyim here in America, in many different countries. But to live with the Goyim and to thrive, my father used to say, the only way the Jews can thrive among the Goyim is to have good political leaders, good Jewish political leaders. So when Joseph was alive, that was great. But when he died, there was no one there to replace him. And if we don't have good political leaders, Jewish political leaders, to represent us intelligently, the Goyim end up abusing us. In the case of Mitzrayim, they enslaved us. This happened to us in Spain. My father had any kaparat mishkavo. He describes in his book, The Shadow of History, what happened to the Jews in Spain. We had the most incredible Jewish communities. We did. We were thriving. We were thriving from the perspective of Torah. There was tremendous Torah in Cordova, in, one second. There was tremendous Torah in Spain. So we were thriving from the perspective of Torah in Cordova, in Lucena, in Mallorca, in Granada. I mean, these were cities of tremendous tremendous Torah. We were thriving from the perspective of wealth. Um, all the kings, their doctors were Jewish. The poets were Jewish. The astronomers, the map makers were Jewish. So tremendous success. And my father describes what happened to the Jewish community in Spain. And do you know what happened to the Jewish communities in Spain? We had a new generation of political leaders or community leaders who unfortunately botched things up terribly. I'll give you one simple example. How can you possibly believe that you're going to go to the Franciscan monks and in Catalonia, come with the books of Harambam and ask them to burn the books of Harambam because they're heretical, and not understand that one day they'll take the Gemara and burn the Gemara? How can you not see the obvious fact that if you're going to the Christian monks, cruel and sadistic people, right? You're going to these cruel and sadistic people, and you're having them, oh my gosh, we have heretics amongst us. You don't realize they're going to eventually accuse you of heresy? I mean, that was, I don't have to use any adjectives to describe the intellectual level of that decision. So I'm not going to use any adjectives. I'll let you judge for yourselves. But it's obvious that the downfall of Spain came from this low quality leadership. Low quality leadership. And when we don't have good, intelligent leaders, then we do not thrive among the Goyim. That's what happened in Spain. That's what happened in France. That's what happened in Germany. The political leadership of the Jewish community was not very effective. And by that, I'm not saying chas v'shalom, that they deserve what they got, God forbid. I'm describing what brought it about. I'm not justifying what happened. I'm describing what happened. But the Jews, they came to the University of Berlin. And you know what the Jews did in the University of Berlin? They began to attack the Jewish Bible, and they started the movement of biblical criticism, which from an intellectual perspective is the greatest evidence that you can be a university professor and still have a very low IQ. Because anybody who takes biblical criticism seriously is either so psychologically clouded by his hatred of Judaism that he will believe in biblical criticism. That's one option. Or the other option is that he has a very low IQ. Either way, who started attacking the Jewish Torah in this ludicrous fashion? And they called it scholarship. Who did that? The Jews. And when the Jews attack the Jewish Torah, don't be surprised that the Germans end up attacking the Jews. And that's exactly what happened. So that was my father's teaching in Perashat Shemot. Whenever he would teach Perashat Shemot, he would say, for the Jews to thrive, we need intelligent political leaders. So Yosef died, and Yosef's death created a vacuum. There was no intelligent Jewish leadership in that time, meaning political leadership, I mean. Nobody replaced Yosef. But there's something else. In Perashat Vayigash, when it says that the Jews became very plentiful, it says Vayidbu vayasmu me'od. Let me see if I can find the pasuk. Give me a moment, please. Hold on. Check this. Right, I think that's incorrect. I think what I just said is incorrect because Sigmund Freud died in 1939. Maybe he did try to escape from Germany. Don't know. Nevertheless, be that as it may, the important point is Hitler considered the Jews to be decadent in their contributions to Germany to be decadent. So Asher lo yadai Yosef means he didn't acknowledge the good that Yosef did to the Egypt. He didn't acknowledge that. That's the point of Asher lo yadai Yosef. Because it's difficult to say that he didn't know Joseph. Although there is a Shita in the Gemara that says Asher lo yadai, that he really didn't know. But I think the correct Peshat, le'aniyut dati, is he didn't acknowledge the special contributions that Joseph and the Jewish people made to Egypt. So I think that's it. I think the time has come. I will wish you Shabbat Shalom. And Belina, they're looking forward to seeing you all next week.
Rabbi Eddie,
Yes.
did you know my uncle Saul Graham?
No, who is he?
No, you didn't. No. Because I'm just from the Bnei Tzchak days. He was an early goer. And anyway, he happened to have loved your father.
Yeah.
You know, he was going to Bnei Tzchak early on when it opened because he lived on East 8th. No, he just passed away. I just thought maybe you knew him.
I didn't know him, and my condolences. Sorry to hear that.
He always used to come home, talk about your father's Dirashot, because he used to go there Shabbat. But way back, 1992.
Wow.
Anyway, I just thought I remember always the rabbi said he appreciated the Dirashot.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
All the best. Kol tov.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
All the
Thank you
best.
for the beautiful shiur.
Thank you.
Thank you.